Please remember as you go into the school year, how am I going to be intentional? And others really truly can't help but notice.
VIBE EDU is all about building community and knowing that this job is not something that you can do alone.
VIBE EDU made it seem, what do I need to do to make myself be the best version of myself in the classroom?
VIBE EDU has had a huge impact on me in my classroom, so I really want to talk about how it's positively impacted my students.
VIBE this weekend has been really powerful for me. I got to bring 8 of my staff members, and it was nice to hear all of the things that we are working for as a team and then continuing to push ourselves as educators. I have everyone in my herd now, and we're ready to go.
All right, we're here to celebrate like the end of that because we're on our 4th episode of creating your school reputation. And so this time for this episode, we're going to be talking about connecting to your community, which is so important. And I know as we're starting the school year off, a lot of things have happened over the summer to make this happen. But I think there's some options and components that we could do, not only just the beginning of the school year, but throughout. And I think that's really important when we're thinking about some strategies to make sure that we're reaching out to our community members and reaching out to our parents and making sure that we have a good rapport. So with that, where do we want to start in the conversation?
You guys tell me.
What's that?
Mitch is like, why are we here?
You said something right there. I didn't catch it.
And you tell me.
Oh, where do you want to start?
I mean, I can go in a lot of different directions. I just didn't want to keep talking.
I think it's worth noting that I think depending on the families you serve as a school, oftentimes I wonder how invited families feel to
For sure.
the community. So figuring that out, and then when they come, recognizing that they're going to be a snapshot of the student body. So if you're working, like for my school, it was a very diverse parent group. And so not only the invitation, but when people did show up, that they felt very seen and valued and, like connected. And there were some, things that had to be done to pull things off like that. Translators and different things. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the authentic invitation too, not just like cheesy, like you're part of this. This is actually, you're part of this larger community, and it goes a lot better when we're all engaged.
I was meeting with this principal one time who was having a tough time getting parents engaged, and we talked about switching the location of the engagement, and the local church was willing to let the church be the space where they did parent meetings, and it like tripled the number of people who were willing to come out.
Yep.
And so it's thinking about that. This might not be intuitive, but I would stop thinking about the school as like a microcosm of the community. It should be a beacon within it. And to shift that thinking to the school being an entity like a business within the community, and what we do to give back to the community and what we do as an organization within the community versus what we typically think of as the school is like a microcosm. People send their kids here, it's compulsory, and the behavior in the school will be similar to the behavior outside of the school. That doesn't have to be true at all. It could be more of a beacon within the community and provide a service to it like a business would.
Well, I've actually heard, TJ, sorry, Kim, that the role of the school has actually shifted over time and actually has a lot of the same things and components of a church used to in our communities. Mm-hmm. So to your point of being a beacon, I think that actually has a lot of merit right now in the United States specifically, in the sense that we are providing a lot of resources. So for instance, like for our students that are, deprived of resources and meals, like the school, for us, we provided meals out of our budget to families in need, and they would come and pick up bags of groceries from the school. That's something that in the past, a lot of folks had received at the churches. So counseling services, resources to other pieces, not just for the student, but also for the parents. To your point too, TJ, of like having the school as a beacon in other places, right? You talked about it in, what was the place that you said? At a church?
Yeah, they held their meetings at a local church that was willing to donate space, and more parents were, comfortable going to the church and meeting with the teachers and the principals and stuff than they were showing back up at school. Because like a lot of us don't have the most fond memories of being at school in the principal's office, so it's not something you want to repeat.
No, and we had parents actually say that. So we had it at parks, and we had it at community centers, and we had it actually at the apartment complexes that we, served. And so we would bring food to all of these places too, for the parents and for the kids. But then also to you talked about the idea of making sure there was belonging. We also changed some things too. So for instance, instead of having student dances, we actually had community events. We had a park right next to our school, and we actually had local businesses come out to donate. And then we had things for all of the family. So we invited our student body, but we also invited the parents, and we also invited their siblings and local elementaries to then join. So it was more of a community event to say everyone's accepted into the space versus it's just for this small little group of our student population that's going to show up to dance, so there's other things that we did to try to pull them in to say that they do belong, and then also correlate a happy memory associated to the school versus, to your point, what might have happened as a student that was a negative.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed with, wait, is it my turn? Can I go? Can I go?
You better go quick because I'm jumping in.
You've been so patient.
I'm obsessed with all of this. Like, I love everything. It made me think of a few schools who decided, especially at the beginning of the school year, right when teachers, elementary school, right when their teachers got their, student lists, that they were going to go out into the community and they were going to go to their apartments or houses or whatever and be with the families. And I was thinking, TJ, back to when we were in Orlando about Principal Cafele. He told a story that was similar, where he took a teacher out into the community and got to experience exactly what these kids experience, right? And it was like an eye-opening. That story will definitely stick with me, about the mice running across like the carpet, while they're eating. And he like forced the teacher to stay there for dinner so she could like literally experience everything, right? And so I do love this whole idea of like some schools that decide, yep, we're going to take our teachers into the community. But I think like if you can't consistently do that year after year after year, and I know schools who have done it like once or twice and then that's it. Like then they move on to something else. Like what do you want your school to be known for? Do you want them to know, like as a family? I'm just thinking like I would be so excited because I know that my kid is going to get their teacher to come into our home, right? When we find out who their teacher is, like it ends up being, I'm going to put in air quotes, like a thing. It becomes a thing. And so how special that does end up feeling, it changes the culture of the community and the feel of the school when you do that. But I wouldn't start anything unless you know that you can't consistently do it year after year after year. I was also thinking, I mean, my small little town in McKinney, I mean, we literally moved here because it feels like a Hallmark movie. It truly feels like a Hallmark movie. And right, I had emailed everybody I was doing a book signing at this cute little local bookstore, like downtown. I mean, it's the cutest thing, but you can feel that everywhere. And the schools know that it feels that way. And even like during Christmas time, the teachers sing Christmas carols and come to like certain schools, and kids and families rush during Christmas time from all over. Even kids that have graduated from high school come back because they know, because you've created that. But again, there was consistency there. They knew that they were going to do this over and over and over again. So I think whatever you're thinking about, when you're talking about getting into the community and doing these things, like it's always going to be at the church. Like this is just something that we do. We're always going to have these community events. We're always going to go out into the homes. We're always going to have a Christmas carol, like whatever it is. I think there's consistency has to be part of it. That's it.
Can I speak to the safety piece too? Like if you're doing home visits, just make sure that you're doing it in a group and having some things that are safeguarded, because I think, I can't remember who was talking about it, but I know that some people feel uncomfortable, so just make sure that, you know, the people that are serving are volunteering their time, feel comfortable in that situation, and that you have multiple people to make sure that the folks that they're going, because we do have some very diverse areas,
Yep.
tough situations economically, and we just want to make sure that everyone's safe. And so
Yep.
we always had groups that were assigned, and we usually had anywhere between 8 to 10 homes for our new sixth graders coming into our building to specifically have a swag bag that was presented to them. And the social media storm that was because of that, like our parents were great about like, oh, you know, take a picture with these teachers, let's post on social media, you're wearing your new shirt, you know. There was a sense of belonging before they even entered onto the campus, and our parents loved it and they were looking forward to it. They knew, okay, I'm coming from elementary, I'm going to get a warm welcome from a group of teachers, and everyone was like on pins and needles. What's my day? When are you going to be there? What's the window? We'll make sure we're here. And they invite you in, they give you a, you know, a cold drink, and you know, they were so inviting and wonderful. And so there's a lot of benefit to that. I also think if you're new to a campus, it's awesome to get in a car and just drive around the community and see what the businesses are like, what are the homes, what are the apartments. I was so appreciative when I worked in North Dallas. My principal on my first day on campus threw me in her car, Sharanda Holden. She drove me around and was like, this is the backstory, you know, and this is, you know, why we're having difficulties. This is the history behind the people that we're serving. And I got a whole history lesson on day one as we were driving around. And then we stopped at certain apartment complexes. And I met students that had been there for multiple years that she was just checking in on. She had a relationship, but then she introduced me to the parents, introduced me to the kid. And I felt like that was such a beneficial thing for myself before day one of school even started.
I love that.
That's so good. I think too, for school leaders and teachers as well, but I think just thinking about making the connections. And when I was a principal, I would call like a local business, a restaurant or a gas station or a grocery store. And I would say, is there somebody who'd be willing to sit down with me and talk about how we could support one another? And I didn't even, like, without an idea, I wasn't asking for anything. I was just like, is there somebody who would be willing to give me a lunch, like not give me a lunch, but sit with me for lunch? And we just talk about what we could do for one another and if there's some synergy. And the number of connections, plus just people knew me as a principal. Now, there's some pros and cons to that when you're walking through the grocery store and everybody knows who you are. But the pros outweigh the cons, and the pros are the grocery store that's willing to give you 50 turkeys during Thanksgiving, and you know which 50 families those need to go to, and the local business that's willing to give 20% off of teachers because they showed their ID, or the coffee shop that will give every teacher a dollar coffee anytime they came in. And then everybody just, the teachers feel a part of that and the families feel a part of it. But we can't just operate as the school in the community. We have to operate as a community school. And it changes your mind, but I'd love to hear anybody who listened to this episode and made a connection in their community that benefited teachers or students or families. But it's actually not that hard. We just got to think differently about driving in and driving home, driving in and driving home. There's a larger influence that we can have if we think differently.
I like the longevity. I know we're going to wrap up soon. I like the longevity of that too. Like the turkey thing, obviously that's like, you know, Thanksgiving, that's a thing. That's a one and done sort of a thing. But if there's like some long-term thing, like the coffee, I love that. Oh, that's forever. That's forever. Yeah. Right. And I think that kind of stuff, that when I say consistency, right, then that consistency piece, it changes everything. Yeah. I love that.
Well, to add to that too, Kim, is a lot of times people want to serve the school, both community members and parents. They just don't know how. And so if you can insert them into other areas, not just like the improvement plan team, but also into like our teacher committees, we would invite them to be a part of those. Because, and not to stay for the whole time, let me just be clear. We would do a certain portion with the parents and the community members, a part of the committee, and then we would launch them off, and then we would continue the meeting for things that were more specific in regards to information they just didn't need to have. But all that being said is then they were starting to tune into, oh, that's a problem or that's a need. I can do something about that. And so it just kind of gives them an inner circle perspective to say, this is how I can serve and this is how I can help out, that they didn't even know existed if they were on the outside looking in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One more thing from me. I want to say about the community of the schools within themselves too. Just a question: what can our high schoolers do to impress our elementary and middle school kids? And so we did this thing where like kids would dress up in their sports uniforms and go through the positive behavior, go through the halls of the elementary schools, or they would bring their AP certificates. And the little kids loved the high school kids. They'd be like, those kids are so cool. And it made academics and participation in the schools and the performances, and the bands would come through. And we tried to do that to Kim's point about consistency, several times throughout the year. But when the high school kids can show off their learning and their academics and their participation to elementary school kids, you get a more connected kid as they go through the system. And that's treating the whole district as a community versus just a bunch of schools within a district.
Love.
Awesome.
Mitch did have one more thing, I think.
Well, I just think it's worth noting Kim's point. Whatever it is, step back before you do it and make sure it's a sustainable practice. Just like we would tell any teacher, any new teacher, it can't be something. Of course, now when leadership changes and people change, things might evolve over time. But if it's something that this is part of the culture of who we are, is it sustainable? Whatever it might be. Am I literally, or is that just what I'm saying? Because if my recording is, I'm impressed with my internet today.
I would love both.
In terms of the internal community, though, TJ, my kids TK through 8th grade, so 10 years, 2 years of kinder, 10 years on campus. In 5th grade, when you got to 5th grade, you got a buddy who was in 1st grade, I think. And you were with that first 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. That was your buddy. And there was time in the schedule where you had time with your buddy doing things, both supporting them academically, but doing fun stuff. And totally sustainable, though. And think about what that does for the community, because TK all the way to 8th, it can start to feel like separate. And that one strategy, totally sustainable. And by the time you're 4th grade, your 8th grade buddy's graduating. Well, you're in 5th grade now, you get your buddy. And it's been really sweet to watch it, how it works. And to your point, the little kids just are like, they love it. I mean, again, both my daughters, of course, had a buddy at first, and one was just amazing and one wasn't. And my oldest really replicated what she saw to the point where she had 2 buddies, and my youngest was like, I know what not to do.
Totally.
And she's been a really good buddy, but there's still community in all of that, So.
Yeah, I love that.
That's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad we did the last
Me too.
real point. Yes.
Yeah.
So just a reminder, we're closing down the series, and the next thing that we'll be doing is the VIBE EDU mailbag. So if you have any questions in regards to anything that we said in this series or previous series, please make sure that you either reach out through our websites, which are in the show notes, or you can throw it in the comment section on YouTube or Spotify. And we always look forward to getting those questions, because it's really fun to do the mailbag and do kind of what we riffed on at the VIBE EDU event. I mean, a lot of us didn't know what we were going to get into as far as the questions and the things that were going to be brought up. So I know we got a lot of footage of TJ smiling at almost every question he received, which was awesome. So,
and there's 1 or 2 pictures of me smiling, which
I don't know
about that.
It's going to be updated.
We'll see about that. All right. With that, we're going to stop clowning around, and we'll see you again next week as we're going to be doing our VIBE EDU mailbag.